Hi guys, I'm Kat. Welcome back to my channel. Today it is so hot outside. I am melting, so if you see any of this melting, please do forgive me. So today I'm doing my July TBR, and I am coming off of doing Japanese June. So actually in June I ended up giving myself like 22 Japanese books to read on my TBR, and it was a lot. So actually what I did was I think I ended up reading like around 15 Japanese books, and then I binge read like 10 romances to like cleanse my palate, because it was just like I don't really like being told what to do. So then I told myself to read 22 books, and I was like, no, don't do that. So yeah, so this month I decided to just let myself have free reign and choose 9 books, whatever books I had on my Kindle or on my shelves that I most wanted to read, and then the 10th book is the Hiroshima book club pick for July. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get right on into it. So Hiroshima's book club pick is Hallucinations by Oliver Sacks, and in this novel he is discussing the way in which hallucinations come about in people's minds. So a lot of people have the misconception that hallucinations are only had by insane people. This is not true. There are a lot of things that can trigger hallucinations, and I've heard that this is just a really fascinating work of nonfiction, so I can't wait to read it and also discuss it. I started thinking about all the other kind of trippy books that are on my TBR, and certain people on BookTube have been talking about them, and it led me to a weird place. And like a good place, but like a weird place. So the next few books are definitely trippy, and I can't wait to check them out. So the book that I'm specifically talking about is The Infernal Desire Machines of Dr. Hoffman by Angela Carter. I believe this one was talked about by Jen Campbell, and ever since I heard of it, like I was like, how have I not had that in my life? So in this one we follow Desiderio, I believe, and his city is under attack, more like the reality of the city is under attack, by Dr. Hoffman's strange desire machines. And these machines have the ability to warp reality. And so when he goes to confront the bad doctor, he actually ends up falling in love with the daughter of the doctor, who is a desire machine / can warp reality herself. So I think this just sounds super trippy, and if my blurb didn't just sell you on it, look at that cover. It is insane. So I have high hopes for it, and I'm hoping it will be pretty bonkers, which is kind of what I'm feeling like. A lot of the Japanese reads that I read last month were very staid, very serious, or very, very dark or politically depressing. So I'm looking for things that are just kind of like crazy or out there, or just something that will kind of shake me out of the Japanese style that I was reading. But there is one Japanese book that I want to read this month, and it is Nausicaä of the Valley of the Winds, Volume 2. So I already know that I'm going to like this because the movie is one of my favorite movies of all time, and I read Volume 1 last month, which was a reread for me. So this one follows Nausicaä, who is the princess of the Valley of the Winds, and she is kind of in a battle trying to help the people of her valley against invading Tolmekians, but also trying to figure out how the world has been poisoned and how she can stop it and help humanity again live in harmony with the natural world. So Nausicaä of the Valley Winds is an amazing, amazing manga. I really love the drawing style, and it's really action heavy. So if you're thinking it would be like a Disney princess type thing, that is not at all the case, as you can see from this. She is a real badass, but she has a mind towards non-violence if it's possible. So every chance she gets, she doesn't want to hurt anyone. She always asks if there's a more peaceful way to do it before resorting to any violence. And that's something I love to see in a really strong female lead. So I really can't wait to read this. My husband picked it up again from his school library. I like begged him to check it out for me. So yeah, I'm really excited to read this. And if you guys haven't read it, I so highly recommend it. And another one that I've heard is pretty trippy is Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor. So this one has been on my shelf since last Christmas. It was given to me as a Christmas gift. So if I don't read this soon, I'm gonna feel bad. Like if we get to like fall and then winter, this will have been on my shelf for like a full year. I think the reason I just haven't read it is because there's so much hype, and I'm just nervous. Like hyped books, I want to love them. Of course, like everyone wants to love books that they're reading, but I'm just really nervous that it won't live up to the hype. In this one we follow Laszlo Strange, who is obsessed with the lost city of Weep. I've heard this kind of referred to as kind of like Atlantis, where he's researching the lost city, and then someone comes as kind of an ambassador from the city, and then he goes back with them to the city. That's all I really know about it. I've tried to stay spoiler free, and it's just a little chunky chunk book, so I hope that I get to it. I really want to finally put it on my TBR and just be like, just get lost in the world of Weep and possibly Atlantis, because I loved Milo. I had a huge crush on Milo. Yeah. Anyone else have a crush on Milo? Yeah, let me know in the comments if you totally love Milo like I did. Anyway, moving on. Okay, and next on the list is Ara by Carlos Fuentes, who is a Mexican writer. We follow Felipe, who has answered a call for a job posting translating and transcripting the memoir of an elderly woman's husband. So when he goes to live in the house, he starts to realize that the dynamics between the old woman and her granddaughter are quite interesting. And I know that this has magical realism and it's sexy but also like dangerous and also like surreal but also like sweet and a great look at family units in Mexico. So there were a lot of things in there that I was like, I'm intrigued. And I do believe it's under 100 pages, so it'll be a good first tasting of the author, and if I really like them then I would be so open to reading more Mexican literature from them. I couldn't make this TBR without mentioning Lifelike by Kristoff. I've been talking about it forever since I got it. I have been waiting for Japanese June to end so that I could read this. This will probably be the first book that I read tonight when I travel for an hour to meet my husband for dinner. He's taking his Japanese test today, so you guys are gonna see this late, but like wish him luck. I'm so happy for him. Anyway, we're going out to celebrate, but the dinner place we chose is like an hour away, so I have a full hour to read this book on public transportation, and yeah. So in this one, we follow a girl who builds fighting robots to pay the bills of her sick grandfather. Things don't go as planned and her robot loses and is kind of destroyed and messed up, so she loses the money, so people are after her for the money, and then she might have powers, so other people are after her for that, and she finds a AI in the garbage, which reminds me of Chobits by Clamp. There's just so many things in this book that I can't wait to get to, and also I have seen online interviews with Kristoff about Lifelike, and it just made me want to read it so much more that I was finally just like, fine, take my money, just take it. So I can't wait. I'm gonna read this today, probably today, so I can't wait. And if you guys have read this, or if you like want to read it, let me know. But mostly if you've read it and it's great, please tell me down below like, it was amazing. Yeah, so we can geek out together. Okay, and now we're getting to the part where I start to talk about books that are kind of messed up, because I do tend to like darker books, and I do realize that, and I really tried to balance them better like this month. That books that were like either neutral or more lighthearted, so that I didn't get like horribly depressed and just binge romance books. So I did try to mind that, but there are 4 books on this list that I bet are gonna be pretty dark, but they sound amazeballs. So let's go ahead and get into it. So the next book is The Outsider by Albert Camus. Sorry, I'm not sure how to say that. And we follow a man whose mother has just died, and he isn't really displaying the typical signs of grief that most people would, wailing, crying, different sorts of emotional expression like that. And when he suddenly commits an act of violence in Algiers, he is brought into the court case and his lack of emotion is used against him. So I think that this will be a really good look at what it means to be an individual who perhaps doesn't have emotion, I'm not sure, or just who doesn't show it in a way that is typical of society. So the outsider being maybe how society views him or how he views society. So if you guys have read this, please let me know. I know it's a classic, I do believe, and it is translated from the French, so I am interested to read it. I've never read the author before, so first time for everything. So next up is The Collector by John Fowles. So in this one, we follow a man named Frederick who is uneducated, unloved, and kind of an outsider. So he doesn't really get on well with others. His one obsession is collecting butterflies. And he wins the lottery, I believe, and he buys a remote house in Sussex, and he decides to abduct this woman that he has fallen head over heels in love for named Miranda, and he's going to kidnap her and hold her there until she loves him. I do love a good abduction story, depending on how it's written. So I'm hoping it's good. I've heard great things about it. I forget who recommended it. It might have again been Jen Campbell, but I'm really interested to get to it. So if you've read it, this is another one. Please do let me know, because I haven't really heard a lot on BookTube about it, but I'm hoping that the writing is really great and that I'm just pulled into this thriller. So keeping in the theme of isolation in the middle of nowhere is The Great Alone by Kristen Hanna, which was sent to me by my lovely aunt, so thank you. In this one we follow a family whose father has PTSD, I believe, and he decides that he needs to move the family to a remote location in Alaska so that he can kind of get away from society and kind of deal with his trauma. And I've heard things that get dark from there, and anything that sounds remotely like my absolute darling I'm here for. I also really happen to love Alaskan settings. So, I've heard great things about it, I can't wait to read it, and I just love that cover. Like, it's so pretty. And the last book on my list is The Grey House by Marian Petrosivin, who is a Russian writer. And in this one, the Grey House is actually a house that is alive, and inside are kept students who rely on wheelchairs and prosthetic limbs to get around, function, and live. Yet suddenly, when things start to go wrong, students start dying and time itself starts to warp. The students know that they are being ignored by the outsiders and that something has to change in order for them to live. So this one I think is going to be super dark, maybe very gruesome. It's very, very long. It's like 750 pages, 740 pages, which is so chunky. Battle Royale was like 666 pages, so ooh, that's like a lot of commitment. But it has super high ratings. It has, yeah, it's rated 4.33 with thousands of ratings on Goodreads, so that's crazy high. I'm really hoping to get to it. I do recognize that it will be very dark, and a very dark, like, long haul, so I bet there might be some romances thrown in amongst it, but what can you do, you know? Yeah, so that finishes up my TBR for July. If you see anything that you'd like to buddy read, let me know. And also, if you've read any of the books and you really loved them, didn't like them, let me know. I am really excited to get to them. These were like the top ones that I had on my Kindle or on my shelves that I just was like, yes, you, yes. Yes, totally yes. So I can't wait to start reading. And I hope you guys are having a lovely end of June, start of July. It's effing hot here in Japan. And I mean, it's so humid that water is wicking out of our salt container. Like, when I went to use the salt, all the water has been pulled out on the top. So that's just crazy. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a nice air-conditioned day, and I will chat to you later. Toodles!